Hey everyone, how's it going and welcome to another video. About a month ago I bought the Samsung S22 Plus, and knowing how good this is meant to be for photography, I wanted to see how it compared to my Sony A7 III. So about 5 days later I took a trip to Wales, and every time I took a photo on my Sony A7 III I tried to replicate that image on the Samsung S22 Plus for this comparison video. So this is how it's going to work. What I'm going to do is throw up two images on the screen, image A and image B. I'm not going to tell you which one is from the Sony A7 III and which one is from the Samsung S22 Plus until the end of this video. And to make this more fun, what I'd like you to do is start writing down your answers in the comments. So as I'm going through all of the different sets, write down, set 1, image A is the Samsung S22 Plus, image B is the Sony A7 III, and before I get to the answers, I will give you an opportunity to post your comments so you can't change your decision. And don't try and edit your answers after you've posted them, because I will be able to see if you've edited your comment. Okay, so let's take a look at the first set. So putting these two side by side, honestly, I can barely tell which one is which. The colour on the left one is a little bit warmer in places, whereas the right one looks overly green. Both look incredibly sharp though, and both have a lot of detail. So let's take a look at set 2. This one is definitely a lot easier, at least it should be, but I'll say here that whichever one is the phone still did a very good job at capturing a lot of detail. So let's move on to the third set. Again, these two are very similar. The right one is a little bit greener, maybe even a bit softer than the one on the left. The left one has a lot more detail in the sky, but the right photo has retained way more detail in the shadows. Now this is a tough one. Now let's take a look at set 4. So again, both are very similar. The one on the right has more sky detail, or at least it's less washed out. The one on the left has better shadow detail. But this one again is very tricky. If you colour balance these to look the same and maybe lifted some shadows on the right image, they'd look so similar. Okay, so the final set, set number 5. Here's another great example where the difference is so minimal. The right image is slightly warmer, has slightly more contrast and less of a blown out sky, but the image on the left certainly has more detail in the shadows, whereas the right image feels a little bit more crushed. Can you tell which one was taken on the phone and which one was taken on the camera? Okay, so have you figured it out? And before I reveal the answers, if you've been writing down your comment with which one you think is which, post that comment now. Okay, so it's time to reveal which one was which. So on set 1, the image on the left was from the phone, the Samsung S22 Plus, and the image on the right was from the Sony A7 III. Did you get this one right? I actually think the image on the left looks a little bit more balanced in terms of colours, whereas the image on the right feels a little overly green. And I think if you've noticed this as we're going through the different sets, it becomes a lot easier to tell which one is the camera. So taking a look at set number 2 then, the image on the left is from the Sony A7 III, and the image on the right is from the Samsung S22 Plus. And I think this one was pretty easy, especially because the image on the left has the long exposure. I will say though, again, the image on the Samsung S22 Plus is clear, the colours look great, and to be honest, the image on the right feels more true to life. The colours definitely feel more accurate from what I remember, whereas the image on the left is maybe a little bit more blue. There definitely could have been some warmer tones. And that could just be because I'm using filters and I have the white balance slightly off. The image on the left also feels like it has a bit more atmosphere, and that's helped by the vignetting, which kind of draws your eye to the water in the background. Whereas the image on the right feels a bit more cluttered. Taking a look now at set number 3. So the image on the left here is from the Samsung S22 Plus, and the image on the right is from the Sony A7 III. And I think the easiest way to tell is that the image on the right from the Sony has that more sort of green tint, whereas the image on the left does feel a little bit more accurate. The image on the left also has slightly more detail in the sky, and that's often helped by phones processing highlights and shadows a little bit differently than our cameras do. The image on the right actually looks a bit more accurate in terms of the sky from how I remember that day, whereas the image on the left looks really cloudy and dark. Looking at set number 4, it's probably easy to tell which one is which now based on my comments from the previous set. So the image on the left is from the Sony A7 III, and the image on the right is from the Samsung S22 Plus. So the image on the right definitely has more contrast, the sky looks more detailed in terms of highlights being less blown out, but the image on the left feels more natural, if you like. And the shadows are definitely a lot less crushed, whereas I think the image on the right looks a little bit overly dark in some areas. And finally, set number 5. So on this one, the image on the left is from the Sony A7 III, and the image on the right is from the Samsung S22 Plus. Again, the Samsung S22 Plus has slightly more contrast, the sky is less blown out. I would say that the image from the Sony A7 III on the left actually looks a bit more colour accurate. The rocks definitely weren't as warm as they appear on the right image, but again, both of these look really good. So what am I trying to say with this video? Well, I don't think the Samsung S22 Plus is going to be replacing your mirrorless or DSLR anytime soon, but phones are getting incredibly close to the same kind of image quality we're getting on cameras. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot more to it than just the sort of like-for-like comparison. There's more detail on the Sony A7 III when you actually zoom in, for example. If you're only going to be sharing these images on social media, which to be honest, a lot of people do, then the Samsung S22 Plus is going to do a great job. And I think that's the important point of this video. If you're someone that doesn't really want to carry around a lot of camera equipment, or maybe you just don't have a camera, then I think the camera in the Samsung S22 Plus or similar other phones is going to be more than enough. And that brings me to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, it really helps out my channel. And I'm really interested to see your comments down below with the answers. Please don't edit them, I really want to see if you could tell which one was which. If you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon, and I'll see you in the next one.